What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Three View. Today, we are joined by Carolina Rage head coach Mike DeCarle. First of all, welcome to the NA3HL, and how's your summer been going?
Summer's been going great. We've been busy. Normally in summertime, you're outside all the time, but we've been in quite a few ice rinks on the East Coast and across the country.
And obviously, this is the first year for the Carolina Rage. What has it been like, building this junior program from the ground up?
We've had some experience with this, but I think what comes along with it is the people around us have been really good. Even the players' parents that we've recruited, kind of like helping me multitask with our organization. I think that's been the biggest surprise is parents really do want to help. So that's helped us a lot early on.
And you have playing experience in the NCAA Division One and also in the ECHL, and you've actually coached within the NAHL family in the tier league. How have those experiences, helped shape your vision for how player development will go for this team?
Yeah, I was really fortunate. I grew up in Southern California, but then ended up playing for a small college in Michigan, Lake Superior State, back in the late 80s. And we just had really good coaching there. Along with that, and then when I was drafted by Buffalo, I was fortunate to have really good coaches going through minor pro, and then it just kind of carried over with me. Coach Jackson at Notre Dame always had a really nice saying. It was always on his desk: respect not only the rights but the feelings of others. So I try to stay. Sometimes I go in game mode. My wife's got to remind me, don't go in game mode like we're sitting at supper. But you have to have that a little bit of softness for the players where you can connect with them as well.
And throughout your time playing in those different leagues and getting those different experiences, what is going to be your message to your players, knowing that you yourself have been able to go to the next level and you're trying to help these players achieve the same?
Right. Well, the short answer is watch all the Florida Panthers playoff games and how they play and how detail oriented they are. We call it small hockey, where if you're taking care of all the small things like tying up on faceoffs or just getting pucks in deep, that's going to be the simple message until we kind of get the chemistry, for a brand new team. But that's my biggest takeaway as far as what I'm going to relay to my players, that details matter. If you're walking through the lobby of your own rink and there's tape on the floor, you simply pick it up. So that's kind of where I stand on that.
And for those who are unfamiliar with the setup in Greer, kind of give us the breakdown of what your facilities have to offer to your players.
Right. So flashback 7 years ago, and we were at our city rink called the Pavilion, and we just grew and grew. We've had an East Coast Hockey League team for at least 30 years now that I can remember. And we kind of outgrew the city rink where there was so many numbers that we formed more of a AA, AAA league, organization with the Carolina Rage, and we settled in downtown Greer at the ice station, which was pretty much an abandoned building at that time.
Okay.
And the nice little correlation with that is that that building actually used to house the big blocks ice. I guess you go back to the early 1900s when people would have cellars or basements and they keep the perishables on those pieces of ice or kept that area cool. And our owner uh, actually looked inside of it and said, "What a great setup!" And not even a couple years after that, maybe 2020, is when they got going on that, and then ice came in the next year. So that's kind of the foundation of how we ended up in the ice station. Which, if anybody gets a chance to go to the website, it's worth watching.
That's actually a pretty cool story. I feel like that's unique and, not the atypical story of how you guys came to be.
And two, we're located maybe 30 feet away from the railroad tracks, so
Mhm.
it's not uncommon for at least once every couple hours the train goes by and everybody could hear that. So that's
Mhm.
the correlation with the ice station.
And you guys will be joining the newly formed Southeast Division, a fresh dynamic in the league. How exciting is it for you guys to join with a handful of new other teams in the league?
Right, especially when you have the Louisiana Drillers who just, you know, won it all last year
Mhm.
for the NA3. We're really excited because we've known for probably about 3 or 4 years now, we've been making a push for Tier 3 Junior. Um, and we just weren't so fond of maybe joining another league. So we were really wanted to be a part of the NAHL and 3HL. And we knew Atlanta was kind of on an island by themselves down there. So
Mhm.
uh, hats off to the NA and the 3HL for, trying to get this territory built up a little bit. And then you add the teams in Alabama and then Louisiana. So it's hopefully going to get off to a great start for the new organizations building this territory.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously a huge benefit as well, the travel. Like you said, teams like Atlanta won't be trekking all over.
Yeah, travel. We were looking at this early on, maybe a year ago, without knowing that we had new franchises coming up in Alabama with the other teams and
Mhm.
Louisiana. We weren't quite sure how that was going to work because sometimes 8 to 10 hour bus rides and then having to play a game the same night,
Mhm.
that could be a task.
And when you're looking to build this inaugural roster, are there any intangibles that you're specifically looking for, as we look at not only developing hockey players, but also young men as well?
Right. Early on, we've been looking at players. If you go back to the first NAHL combine in New Jersey, and then Columbus, then out to Irvine, and I believe the first one was in St. Louis. We were all at. With that, the players we're looking for are not necessarily all O5s and O6s, but players that are like really mature that you can tell by having a quick chat with them or extended kind of interview. Are they mature enough to be in this league at this point right now? Because if you look at the NCAA or ACHA, the average age of college players is 20 plus coming in because
Right.
they don't want to roll the dice on maybe a player that's barely turned 18 and then, get caught up in school and everything that has to do with that and then possibly failing out by Christmas. So we look for players that are more mature, not so much in age, but
Mhm.
just, their overall person.
Yeah, then that's huge, especially too. You're going to need, as a new franchise, mature players to lead the locker room as well.
That's correct. Yeah, we've been very fortunate of the players we brought in. We have a I think it's going to surprise the whole league goalie. His name's Derek Strong. He's from Wisconsin, and he gets it. Like you can already tell a player like that. He's kind of bubbly, but he knows when to turn it on and turn it off. And I really feel like he's going to be like a huge leader for us as far as calming the nerves of some of the younger players.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And then going off of, building the roster out some more, with this kind of untested waters of the Southeast Division, do you think that kind of creates a challenge knowing that there's some unknown factors?
I think so. It's hard to say, and a lot of coaches talk about systems. We have to have this system or that system. For my coaching style, it's the game comes down to pretty much a read and react. And then as you get towards mid-season, maybe playoffs, then you can kind of start, maybe adding a little bit more of a system to teams you're playing against.
Mhm. And to wrap things up here, the season kicks off in a little bit over a month. What are you most looking forward to in year one with the Carolina Rage?
Actually, if it's I know all the players myself, our owners, they're always looking forward to, being on the ice, getting into practice mode. But I think the thing that excites me the most is the players meeting their billet families.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the season, we can tell them now, like I go back to Austin, Minnesota once every so many years, and I visit with my billet family from 1983 to 85. So having that connection, like they don't see it now, but
Mhm.
seeing how they act with their billet families early on, and then at the end of the season, it's hard for some of these kids to kind of let that go because
Mhm.
now they're leaving their extra family. So that's the thing I think I'm looking forward to the most is having my players settle in, and we have great billet parents. We've had the last 3 years. So I think that's the big thing I'm looking for is just that connection so they feel at home here.
Oh, I love that answer. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for jumping on this call today. We really appreciate getting some insight into your new program, and we look forward to seeing what you guys do in year one.
Sounds good. Thank you for having us.